Did you just go online? Okay. So I'll start all over again. Okay. Okay. So we'll continue from where we were. Last time we finished the chapter on concentration, how it's done in the Pali tradition. And now we'll start chapter 10. And this is practicing serenity in the Chinese tradition, which is, well, they do have one Pali school, historically in China. I don't know how popular it is now, maybe a little bit. But they had, many different schools. So they had, one Pali school. And then there was another one that was kind of in between Pali and Sanskrit. Anyway, the Chinese tradition, basically how they describe it, is more similar to the Sanskrit tradition in some aspects because the texts are the same, but in other aspects it's different. And also, when you talk about Chinese Buddhism, there's many different schools within Chinese Buddhism. It isn't all one uniform. Everybody believes and practices in the same way. I think that this is warm and wet, and it might leave marks on the table. Is there something to put it on? Yeah, I have a tissue here. I was looking for something bigger. Yes, nice round circles. Thank you. Okay. Taking care of Sangha property. Yeah, so there's different Chinese schools, and they approach serenity and insight many ways in common, but many ways different, and different from each other and different from the way the Tibetans do it. You'll, remember the discussions we had about this with the nuns from Dharma Drum, yeah, and the Huatos and yeah, all those things, and how they meditated. That was quite a bit different than us, yeah. But it's interesting, because the whole thing is that the Buddha taught many different ways because people are different. Yeah, and so people eat different food and like different food, and different food goes with different stomachs. Sometimes somebody eats something that you knew if you ate, you'd be sick in bed afterwards, and vice versa. But, and so it's similar in terms of, how we, our spiritual paths, many different ways. And so there can be a lot of debate between them, which is really healthy. I don't think it's necessary to say, or even wise to say, oh, it's all the same, it's just different paths up the same mountain. Because if we aren't up the mountain, haven't gotten to the top of the mountain with one path, how can we assess everybody else's path up the mountain? Well, when we don't even know, haven't fulfilled our own path. So it's just good to learn, and at the same time discuss and challenge, because it helps everybody kind of refine their practice and think more deeply about how things are and what how to practice. Okay, so let's start with the prayers, the recitations. Yeah, they're not, the word prayer is very tricky. We usually say, prayers, but prayers usually means that you're praying to somebody else to request for something, you know. And in Buddhism, you know, that's not so much what we're doing. We're, you know, doing things that you know, the chanting that takes refuge, that may talk about the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you know, and purification and creating merit. That's in the chanting. But we're not praying to some, like, heavenly being who is going to, you know, wave their magic wand and do something. I don't know what. Yeah. Okay. So let's remember the visualization.
To the teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, oneness found, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, nor of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans, to you the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow. With your bodies formed supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain. Fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not incomparable, wise one, to you I bow. Great, compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all seeing, subdue the foe of false, and be delivered from the ocean of psychic existence, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, foreland, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you, may all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamyatayami. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by to the Dharma. I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So take a minute and recall some of the defects of samsara so that you have a feeling of wanting to be free. Then be aware that that other living beings are plagued by those same disadvantages of samsara. We're all in the same boat. And as Shantideva said, suffering is to be removed. It doesn't matter whose it is. So cultivate compassion for yourself and others. This doesn't have to be contradictory.
And then that compassion motivates the wish to do something about it, to free ourselves and others, and thus the determination to become a Buddha, so that we can not only free ourselves, but are fully qualified and have all the abilities to lead others to full awakening. So let's have that intention for sharing the Dharma tonight. Okay, so the practice of serenity in Chinese Buddhism. The quiescence of serenity and the analytical wisdom of insight are like the two wings of a bird or two wheels of a cart. They must be balanced for the aspired result to come about. Yeah, if the two wings don't work together very well, the bird's not going to fly. If one wheel is, this big and the other wheel is this big, you can have a bumpy ride. Yeah. Just walking, isn't it? When you start having problems with your legs, and one leg is okay and the other leg is having a temper tantrum. Okay, so we need to really try and balance these things. At certain times in our life, we may put more emphasis on one or the other, but to maintain that mind that, aims to balance them as we go along. Okay, so this is true also for Chan meditation, which leads to both serenity and insight. Serenity suppresses the afflictions, nurtures the mind, and can be used to create merit. So that's some of the benefits of serenity. And then for insight brings wisdom and cultivates Dharma understanding. As the Buddha says in the Dharmapala in the Chinese canon. So there is we usually think of the Dhammapada as a Theravada text. It's not. It's also in the Chinese canon. In fact, in the Chinese canon is really very full of all sorts of things. It contains almost all, not quite all, but of the Pali Nikayas, but slightly different versions of them, because when it's passed down orally, going south and then going east comes out a little bit different, but they're the same texts, and much of the texts are the same. So the Chinese canon, has all this Pali stuff, plus the Mahayana scriptures. Yeah. A little bit of Tantra, not quite as much. The Tibetan canon is more complete in Tantra. Okay. So as the Buddha says in the Dhammapada in the Chinese canon, in the absence of concentration, one does not exercise wisdom. In the absence of wisdom, one does not course in concentration. The path comes forth from concentration and wisdom. Okay, so in the absence of concentration, one does not exercise wisdom. You may study a lot and know a lot and understand the arguments for wisdom and, be able to give a good explanation of it, but the concentration is needed so we can have realizations and then hold the realizations in the mind. Yeah, it isn't just like, oh, I got it now, and in a finger snap, you've realized that, and it's totally purified your mind, and now you've got that insight forever. You understand it forever and ever and ever. You can go out and play golf, and not worry about your realization, because all you do is sit down again at the 18th hole, and you'll, have serenity and wisdom again. No. Okay. Yeah. The concentration, when you can have a Dharma understanding, the concentration enables it, because you stay focused on that same understanding, and it seeps into your mind. It becomes integrated in your mind. In the same way that, if you're, you spill something on cloth, depending on the cloth, it takes time to seep in. It doesn't just get wet or, whatever it is altogether. So in the same way, it needs to seep into our mind so that it becomes stable. Yeah, a realization is not even a direct realization, After you come back, you still, may have to work at it again to remember it, to generate it again. So the longer you can hold it in your mind, the more it seeps in and becomes part of you. So that's, why wisdom needs the concentration. In the absence of wisdom, one does not course in concentration. Yeah, well, what are you going to do with your concentration if you don't use it for wisdom? Well, bodhicitta, yeah, that's good. Remedies to anger, that's good. Yeah, but, there's still, without the, in the absence of wisdom, you may have some concentration, but are you really understanding the object deeply? Mm-hmm. Okay. So learning how to practice serenity and insight is essential before engaging in the actual practice. Okay, so we have to learn how to do it before you actually do it. It's like you got to read the instruction manual before you start putting something together, or before you start using it. Yeah, if you just say, oh yeah, I can figure this out. Yeah, I can figure it out. No problem. Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. And you wind up wasting a lot of time and getting stuck in a lot of, you're trying to figure out the new program and you don't read any instructions, and maybe you wind up deleting everything on your computer by accident. Who knows? So learning how to practice serenity and insight is essential before engaging in the actual practice. But merely knowing the words, even being able to teach this method to others, is not sufficient. Okay? Not practicing it ourselves is like a beggar who calculates others' wealth. Yeah. In other words, you can talk all about what somebody else is doing in their meditative equipoise, but, you can't do it yourself. That's what it's saying. Okay, so first looking at meditation. So Nagarjuna's, before we get into this, I almost forgot. Before we get into meditation, there were two questions from last week's teachings. So I have them here, at least the ones I received. So the first one is the union of serenity and insight only spoken of in the Sanskrit tradition, not in the Pali tradition. No, it's spoken of in all the Buddhist traditions. Okay, we haven't gotten into something yet where it's talked in more detail about how it's done in the Pali tradition, but for sure, yeah. And then the second thing was, in the Pali tradition, the path to nirvana seems nebulous. How do they eradicate afflictions without the object of negation? Okay. Now, they do have an object of negation. They don't use that term, object of negation. Okay? We have to understand that, different terms and different ways of putting things that evolved as Dharma was taught, as the years went on. So the term, I don't know if it came from Tsongkhapa or where it came from, but yeah, it's in the Tibetan tradition. We always hear about the object of negation. It's in the Pali system too. And in fact, in many of the sutras, the Pali sutras that you read, you'll see the phrase, this is not I, not mine, this is not myself. Okay, that's talking about an object of negation. Yeah, because he may be, when he says this, he may be talking about the body, the mind, a certain event in the mind, who knows what it is, or how you're thinking of something. Yeah, the life force. Oh, the life force. That is me. Or the soul. Yeah, I'm astounded. I was reading, now I remember his obituary or something somebody wrote about him. They use the word soul, It's like, that's not a word you use in Buddhism. But anyway, okay, because the early schools, they were very much focused, anatma, there's no atman, there's no soul, okay? So you might have the idea that you have a soul, and then, this is not I. Yeah, why not? Because when I say I'm eating dinner, is my soul eating dinner? Or, what's eating my dinner? Anything in the body, anything in the mind, anything that's separate from the body and mind, that is a soul that is eating dinner, Okay, so this is not I, it's not mine. Yeah, because as soon as you have mine, who is the owner of mine? Who makes something mine? This is a very interesting question. This is mine. Mine. What makes this mine? Yeah. Well, you have a government certificate. Yeah, when you find something valuable, you have gems or diamonds or something valuable, the government gives you, or some reliable organization gives you a certificate saying that this is yours, this is what it is, and this is yours. Okay. So does that certificate make it yours? What does it mean to be mine? What does it mean to be yours? What makes it yours? What makes it mine? Yeah, this is mine. And that means if it's mine, it means if you want to use it, you better check with me. Okay. Now, did we talk about it together and say, this is mine? Or did we both just assume because it was sitting on my table? Yeah, or the table that I am sitting behind? And what about when the talk ends? Is this still mine? When I walk out of the room, is this mine? Okay. So what is the mind, and who makes it something mind? Okay. And then this is not myself. So we have the idea of a self, yeah, and this is not. It doesn't fulfill my idea of a self. Yeah. Because inside, how do I feel there's a self? There's a real self. And it's there. And it's always been there. It always will be there. Yeah. It's an independent entity. And it's the most important thing in the universe. Yeah. Okay. So this is not myself. Oh. Okay. So, of course, there's a lot of debate about how you define this is not I, this is not mine, this is not myself. Yeah. But all of that is getting you to think of what the object of negation is, even though that term's not used. Okay. Okay. So let's go back. Chapter. I did my job, on the questions. Okay. Nagarjuna's treatise on the middle way does not give instructions on how to cultivate serenity, but assumes that practitioners have already attained it and are prepared to meditate on the correct view once they have discerned it. Woo! Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is a topic that they study for several years in the Geshe training. Have all of them realized serenity beforehand? I can't comment on other people's realizations, but how many of them have sat and done retreat? Okay. Anyway, so so they're prepared to meditate on the correct view once they have discerned it. Much of this preparation depends on being well grounded in the method aspect of the path, including serenity described in the Yogacarya scriptures by Asanga and others. Okay, so you want to generate wisdom and meditate on the correct view, and that's depending on the method aspect of the path? But I thought there were two wings, method and wisdom, and I want to realize wisdom. Isn't that the wisdom? Yeah, why does it depend on the method? Okay, because the method is what gives energy and juice and motivation to the wisdom aspect. If you don't have the method aspect of the path, for example, renunciation of samsara, then why do you want to meditate on emptiness? Yeah? If there's no renunciation, why are you putting all this energy into studying all these complicated, debating things? Is it just intellectual? Or, there's some reason, okay? So that reason is what the method is, the renunciation, and also the bodhicitta, And then it's through bodhicitta so much that you accumulate a great store of merit. And then that merit, it becomes part of the ground of your mind, so that when you plant the seeds of the teachings, something can sprout. Yeah. So that's why, at first, I remember when I was learning, I thought, how does emphasis on creating merit? What in the world is merit? I heard merit, and I thought of, how you got gold stars on your paper, and I don't know. The word just didn't resonate with me. but it's something that you have to hang around for a while, and then you kind of get a feeling for what they mean. Merit is like goodness, you're accumulating goodness, but it's not something physical that you're stacking up. Yeah. But as you practice over the years, you can see the difference you can feel the difference in your mind's receptivity. Okay, you can feel that difference. Yeah, you realize that you've been hearing the same your teacher's giving the same teaching, every year. And it's like at one time you go, oh my God, wow. Is that what they've been saying this whole time? I didn't have the vaguest idea. Whoa. Well, what made the difference between when you first started and then, when you had an aha moment? Yeah, it's the purification and creation of merit, accumulation of merit that makes that difference. Okay, so that's to really generate our wisdom. It has to be on a foundation of merit, and the method side of the path, and to really profound the depths of the method side of the path, you need wisdom, not only to understand the method conventionally, but to really, apply ultimate analysis to, what is this really? Yeah. Okay. So much of this preparation depends on being well grounded in the method aspect of the path, including serenity, described in the Yogacarya scriptures by Asanga and others. Yeah. So the whole thing that we had, sorry. The whole thing that we had when I went through the Sanskrit tradition, that the Tibetans follow, that almost all of it comes from the Yogacarya scriptures, from Asanga and Maitreya. Yeah. The Chinese really rely a lot on the Yogacarya, more than the Tibetans do. The Chinese, many, not all, but it's a very prominent school that many people follow, and they think that shows that is the ultimate, the definitive teaching of how things exist. In the Tibetan tradition, there's a lot of debate between the Yogacarya and the Madhyamaka. Okay, on the other hand, just cultivating serenity without the wisdom realizing emptiness is common to non-Buddhists and does not bring liberation. Oh, yeah. Do I just want to generate serenity and be a non-Buddhist? Yeah. His Holiness, a few times, when we were working on the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, and he did this, regarding serenity, and he said, oh, yeah, the non-Buddhists all practice it, Why do we Buddhists think we're doing something special that the non-Buddhists don't do? And then once he was talking about some tantric things, exercises, things that are done with the channels, winds, and drops. And he said, yeah, this is practiced, by non-Buddhists too. Yeah. Why do Tibetan Vajrayana people think they're special? The non-Buddhists do these things too. So it's a good question. Yeah. What makes it different when Buddhists do it? Well, the standard answer is it's done with refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. But you need to explain more, kind of like, why are the Buddhists making such a fuss about this and saying this is so important if it's also done by the non-Buddhists? Yeah, what's the special quality of this that we need? So it's important to know that. Okay. It's the same with ethical conduct. Different religions have different versions of ethical conduct. Much of it is the same, no lying, no killing, no stealing, no, unwise, unkind sexual behavior. Yeah, that's all the same. So what's the difference, if you're Christian or Muslim or Buddhist? Yeah. Well, there's some difference, isn't there? Yeah. So you have to think, well, what's that difference? Well, okay, there's refuge, but there's also your intention, what your aim is in keeping ethical conduct. Some people keep ethical conduct just so they don't wind up in prison. Yeah. Other people keep the same ethical conduct because they want to become a Buddha. Okay, so intention is a really big thing in it. Yeah. Okay. So only when we attain the union of serenity and insight can we generate the unpolluted wisdom that realizes the 8 negations in Nagarjuna's homage in the treatise on the middle way and knows emptiness directly. Okay, so we need both serenity and insight to generate the unpolluted wisdom, the wisdom that is not affected by the ignorance grasping true existence. Okay, that's something unique in Buddhism. Okay, why are we practicing ethical conduct? Because we want to realize that. Yeah, we want to realize, the emptiness of true existence. So here it mentions Nagarjuna's homage in the treatise to the middle way, which just happens to be in Pearl of Wisdom, Book 2. Compliments of Geshe Zopa, really pounding it into us. Okay, so the homage is, I prostrate to the perfect Buddha, the best of all teachers, who taught that whatever is dependently arisen is unceasing, unarisen, not annihilated, not permanent, not coming, not going, without distinction, without identity, and free from conceptual construction. So those are the 8 negations in the homage. I'm not going to go through them now. Yeah. Study Nagarjuna's book with lots of commentaries. Yeah. Okay, whatever is dependently arisen is unceasing. But wait a minute, I die, I'm ceasing. The table's ceasing. What does unceasing mean? And it's also unarisen. If it's unarisen, how did it come to be? So you see already, that there's some meaning to these words that is not our ordinary language. Okay. Not annihilated, not permanent. Not coming, not going. The second chapter of Nagarjuna's text is on coming and going. And Jeffrey started to teach that. We didn't get through the whole chapter. But it was hilarious. Yeah. But it was really funny because you start to talk about it and you get the ordinary meaning of the words mixed up with what you're trying to say. It's quite hilarious. But it's a very powerful chapter. He comes up with all sorts of things about coming and going. Because coming and going seems quite obvious, doesn't it? Except when in your English class, Yeah, we often confuse coming and going just in writing English. Yeah. He's coming, he's coming to Seattle this weekend. No, he's going to Seattle this weekend. If I'm in Seattle, then he's coming to Seattle. But if I'm not, just in general, he's coming to Seattle. No, he's going to Seattle. Okay, so that's that. We'll get to chapter 2 of the Karika Samye. Okay. So before entering samadhi, it is essential to think about the dukkha of all sentient beings to avoid becoming attached to the bliss of samadhi. In this way, we can join the mind of great compassion and bodhicitta with all of our meditation practices and reflect on the emptiness of the practices we do. This is practiced repeatedly over time in order to gain familiarity with it. So that's true, isn't it? Yeah. Before entering samadhi, you have, as a Dharma practitioner, you have to think of the dukkha of sentient beings, and that's at least that dukkha. Hopefully, you think about, you generate compassion for beings and bodhicitta, and that becomes part of your motivation. And then you can also contemplate, is dukkha inherently existent? Well, it certainly seems to be. But if it's inherently existent, then how come it depends on causes and conditions? Because dependent and independent, inherent means inherently existent, means independently existent, and dependent and independent are contradictory. Okay, so we have to really think about this over time. For many centuries, we Tibetan practitioners have had the misconception that meditators following Chinese Buddhism engage in blank-minded meditation. Have you heard this before? Yes. Yeah. And we hear all about the big debate at Samye, with Hashang teaching this horrible view of, meditating on nothingness, and Kamala Shila coming in and saving the day and changing the direction of Tibetan Buddhism forever and ever and ever. Hooray! Yeah. Okay, so this is a prominent thing, the idea. Well, the Chinese, everybody's like a Hashang. Everybody just does blank-minded meditation. That's it. Yeah, that is a misconception, okay? It's, you've heard me often talk about how the different traditions have misconceptions about each other. So this is one of them that Tibetans have towards Chinese Buddhism. During the time of Santarakshita, who was Kamala Shila's teacher, and Shantarakshila, we also have to thank, he was the one who brought the ordination tradition to Tibet. But he didn't bring any bhikshunis. Yeah. Because it would have looked a bit different, monks and nuns traveling together over the Himalayas. Yeah, so he didn't do that. Okay, but he's credited with, rooting the monastic tradition here. So very grateful to him. During the time of Santarakshita, Chinese monks resided in Samye Monastery in central Tibet, where they translated texts from Chinese into Tibetan. if they had had this wrong view, Santarakshita would have refuted it himself and would have not had to call Kamalashila to come in later years to do so. So this shows that Hasang Mahayana his corrupted view of Chan was not shared by all Chinese practitioners. The great debate at Samye from 792 to 794 between Hasang Mahayana. Hasang means Mahayana. It's not his name. It means Chinese or Mahayana abbot. Okay. Yeah. So the debate between him and Kamalashila was a decisive point in Tibetan Buddhist history. As recounted by Tibetan historians, Hasang Mahayana asserted that all thoughts are useless and to be abandoned on the path. All thoughts. Whatever you're thinking is an obstruction. Just as clouds, be they black or white, obscure the sky, so too thoughts, be they constructive or destructive, obscure the true nature. Yeah, so thoughts, all thoughts, are the object to be negated, to the object, to get rid of, to be overcome. Thus, the method side of the path, this was what some of these people said. The method side of the path was unnecessary because it involved thought. If you want to generate bodhicitta, you have to think about the kindness of sentient beings. You have to think about their dukkha. All of this is thought. And if you're just generating more and more thought, all thought is namtok. So just shut your mind down and don't think anything. Yeah. Sometimes you might get so fed up with the garbage going around in your mind that you would like to just shut it off, turn it off, leave me in peace, But, and it's true that the ultimate, what we're aiming for, is non-conceptual. But to get from where we are to understanding the true nature non-conceptually, with the union of serenity and insight, this is going to involve a lot of thinking because we have to have the correct view. And the correct view isn't just shut it all down. You've got to know. Because the problem with, if you say just stop thinking, and all thoughts are obstructions, then what? Then what are you doing? Then you don't have to learn anything. You don't have to teach anybody anything after you've learned it all. And you just sit there and radiate light, love, and bliss. But that's not in your mind because you don't know how to think properly in order to generate those qualities. And those qualities that we want to have, the ones that are the opposite of the temper tantrum going and the cyclone going on in our own minds, is we have to start with a proper way to think, learning how to think correctly. And this is a lot of what our studies are about, and a lot of when they do the debate, what you're learning to do in the debate is how to think correctly, how to ask a question correctly so that you can get an answer that you seek. And so, how do we ask questions? Just go to some Dharma teaching, where there's relatively new people. Well, how about, you're talking about the ultimate nature. Well, I studied with this Hindu master, and he said the ultimate nature is this. But I grew up in a Christian background, and they said it was that. And, and I've practiced both of them, and I go back and forth, and they both have some good qualities. But I don't really know kind of what's going on here. And will you just tell me simply what is the right view? Yeah. Okay. Now that's actually a clearer question than most of the time you get. Yeah. What you get is, oh, I followed their method, and they said to eat strawberries 9 times a day, 3 in the morning, 3 at lunch, 3 in the evening, and then to eat cucumbers in between those, and that this does something to the chi in your body and calms, all the winds down so that you can concentrate. Yeah. So what kind of cucumbers do I have to use? Yeah. What'd you say?
Sounds like Robert Kennedy Jr.'s suggestions.
Oh, yes. Follow RFK Jr. Yeah, what does he say? Yeah, so, it's like often we don't know really what our question is because we can't just express it simply. Yeah. Okay, so we get tangled up with our thoughts. But thoughts, to meditate on dukkha, on the 4 truths, to get an understanding, all the bodhicitta motivations, starting with precious human life and death and impermanence, everything, we have to think about in order to really understand it well and then get to something that's non-conceptual in the case of the wisdom side, or get to something that's really well integrated in our mind, such as compassion. Yeah. Okay. So this was the misunderstanding. Okay, so thus the method side of the path was unnecessary because it involved thought. One simply has to empty the mind of all thought whatsoever, and nirvana will be attained. And I thought maybe that's where the expression holy cow came from, because cows don't think much. And maybe that makes it a holy cow. The Indian sage Kamalashila refuted blank-minded meditation by asserting that practices on the method side of the path are imperative for the collection of merit, and that emptiness must first be approached by means of constructive thought before it can be non-dualistically perceived. Okay, so thought is important on the path. As a result of the debate, Tibetans turned towards India rather than China as the principal source for Buddhist scriptures and ideas. Okay, now the Tibetans usually end it there. Yeah. Here's something more. And Geshe Topke talked about this, that I forget exactly what he said. It was something about the scriptures they found in Dunhuang. Does anybody, and that there's some, I don't know, anybody remember exactly what he said about the debate and all of that? Something about, there's some debate about that, the Samye debate, yeah, that some scriptures have come to light that question about that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so interestingly, a similar debate about blank-minded meditation was going on at approximately the same time in China as well, where the Huayan and Chan patriarch Guifeng Zongmi lived 8th century and 9th century, where Zongmi criticized the views and practices of certain Chan practitioners. So there was a whole big debate, and there were different Chan schools, and one Chan school said, yeah, just blank-minded meditation, and you don't need the method side of the path. But then not all of Chan said that. You know, other Chan schools said, no, it's very important that you learn the Dharma and, you know, you have the method side of the path too. Yeah. I'm trying to remember, where was I reading that about that? Oh, it's in we have this book in the library. I can't remember the title, but it's in there. Yeah. Yeah, that's specific enough. Okay. Yeah, and what was also interesting, you know, what has influenced this chapter, is in sometime in the late 90s, I can't remember the exact date, last year, the Chan master from Dharma Drum, Venerable Shungyan, thank you. Yeah, all the names sound similar to me. Okay, so Venerable Shunyan's group in New York, they were the ones who requested His Holiness to teach and arranged the auditorium and did this whole thing, you know, so that there was a public teaching by His Holiness. So, you know, requested by Venerable Chunyan. And at the end of it, after His Holiness taught, and then the last session, both of the two masters got on stage, and they had a dialogue. And they were asking each other questions about the other one's tradition. And His Holiness brought this up. And he said, you know, there was this debate, and we heard, you know, that there was a discussion about what enlightenment meant. Yeah. Well, first, you know, there was this debate, and, you know, you're not supposed to think anything. Do all Chinese schools think like that? He asked Venerable Chunyan. No. And then what was the other thing? Yeah. What? Yeah, what is the meaning of enlightenment? Because the Chan masters will talk about you have a sudden enlightenment, you know, so the whole thing, not just the meaning of enlightenment, but sudden enlightenment versus slogging through the whole path to get to the end, you know. And yeah. And so it's, yeah, is there sudden enlightenment, you know? Because His Holiness will say, well, if somebody has practiced a long time, at the very end, you know, you can have something suddenly happen. But the Chan people, some of the Chan people talk about it happening when you haven't been practicing that long. Is that enlightenment? But then you're not enlightened because then, you know, you still are creating negative karma in daily life, you know. And so Master Chunyan was describing that how they use the word enlightenment doesn't mean the final enlightenment of a bodhisattva. And it doesn't even mean the enlightenment of a Shravaka or a solitary realizer. It just means that you kind of you got it. Something clicked. Yeah? So something clicks, but then you have to go back and practice the rest of the path to accumulate merit. Yeah. So that was really interesting because it was totally, you know, demolishing a lot of the wrong conceptions that have passed down in centuries. And then Master Chunyan, I forget what he asked His Holiness. Yeah, but the common questions are, is it true you really drink alcohol and have sex? Yeah. It's like, and how does that go together with your pratimoksha vows? You know? Yeah, because there's this rampant misconception, not only, in Tibet and in China, but especially in the West, that it's like, yeah, sex can bring you to the highest enlightenment. Yeah, and so all of them are just, sleeping together here and there, and after they have a shot of vodka. And it's like, no, this is not what Tibetan Buddhism is about, and this is not what's going on. Okay. When I asked His Holiness, during the interviews, about this, he put his hand out and he said, I know maybe this many people, referring to his 5 fingers, that are qualified to do that practice now. But they all keep it very quiet. Yeah. So, but, wrong views are rampant. Okay, so anyway, it was a wonderful session having them both up there discussing. And so I think when the Dharma Drum nuns came here, it was a follow-up from what our teachers did. And I was thinking we need to talk to them again and arrange to do that again. Yeah, I think it was very beneficial. You said they wrote something about it. Was it were you able to translate it? Or?
They published a whole book. I am in the middle of translating it. 54%. Every day I do 1 hour.
Okay, AI can't do it?
No, I still like to do it myself.
You want
I will double check
Okay.
it with AI. AI will be my second reader, and then I'll send it to Venerable Changwu because they have like specific Dharma drum terminology, names of their buildings and whatever. Yeah, it's very moving. They really, really appreciated the exchange. So it's, and it sets the context as following up on the lineage our teachers established, and then their own personal reflections on what they learned. Q&A was terrifying for all of them. All of them write about how much anxiety they had at the whole open Q&A sessions.
Really? That when we ask questions?
Yeah, because that's just not part of the typical Asian educational structure, but how much they learned from that. Having to speak English was terrifying. So things like that.
Yeah.
It's quite beautiful. So I'll send it around at some point.
Yeah, it's very good. We need to have more of these kind of discussions. It was, everybody benefited. Okay, let's get back here. While meditation instructions in Chinese Buddhism are vast, most of the important points have been covered in the foregoing chapters about concentration and will not be repeated here. Okay, so these include what's already been covered, the guidelines about choosing a meditation place, preparing for the session, the meditation objects, the methods to counteract the 5 hindrances and the 8 faults, progressing through the 9 stages of sustained attention, maintaining mindfulness and introspective awareness during break times, and so forth. So we've covered all that, and the same thing applies here when we're talking about Chinese Buddhism. Meditators, Chinese Buddhism, meditation masters warn against dead tree samadhi. Yeah, this is the equivalent of dry, wizened arhats. Okay, dead tree samadhi, where meditators become attached to the peace of samadhi and fail to generate wisdom. The dry wisdom arhats have generated, dry wizened arhats have generated wisdom, but it's the same thing. They've missed. The dead tree samadhi has samadhi but forget everything else, and the dry wizened arhats have gotten the wisdom, but they haven't gotten the samadhi part. Okay, next section, creating balance at the beginning and end of a meditation session. So the writings of the Chinese master Zhi Yi, who lived 6th century, who emphasized practicing serenity and insight together in a balanced fashion, are particularly important because they appeared early in the history of Chinese Buddhism, when proper meditation instruction was not readily available to the general Buddhist practitioner who was not a scholar. So Zhi wrote a lot, and we have the translation of one or two of his books. They were done by Venerable Dhammamitra, who lives in Seattle, a friend of mine. So Zhi's comprehensive and clear instructions were a great boon to practitioners of his time, and for those up to the present day. A good deal of this chapter is based on his book, The Essentials of Buddhist Meditation, which is now in English. Okay. Someone wishing to engage in meditation to attain serenity must first generate the great vows to liberate all sentient beings from samsara and to follow the Buddha's way to do this. Okay. Yeah, you want to learn how to do concentration meditation? First, bodhicitta. Okay. Generate the great vows to liberate all sentient beings. Yeah, so there's one version of 4 great vows, and then there's another version of 5 great vows, and they're really quite something, that, in the Chinese tradition, you usually recite every day. And those of you, you'll remember in your ordination, this was always coming up, wasn't it? That you generate bodhicitta and you're going to save all sentient beings. You're going to lead all sentient beings again and again and again. Remember? Yeah, even what you said when you went in 3 at a time to take the actual ordination, you have to scream it at the top of your lungs. Do you remember the words? Can you? Can you remember what you had to say? Yeah?
Something to the effect of, I will cultivate all virtues, there's no virtue I won't cultivate. I'll abandon all negativities, there's no negativities.
Okay, now recite that slowly, moving your mouth so you are enunciating.
Thank you.
Clearly.
I think it started with the non-virtues. I will abandon all non-virtue, there's no non-virtue I won't abandon. I'll cultivate all virtue, there's no virtue I won't cultivate. I will liberate all sentient beings.
Yeah.
There's no sentient being I won't liberate.
Yeah. And you said it in Chinese.
Loudly.
Huh?
Loudly.
Loudly, yeah. Do you remember the Chinese?
I remember the first 2 syllables.
Okay. Yeah. What? Who is Boot One?
There's no non-virtue I will not.
Yeah. Yeah. But you did learn it and screamed it at the top of your lungs. Yeah. Okay. So, it's emphasized there in the tradition, isn't it? Yeah. Again and again and again. Okay. So someone wishing to engage in meditation to attain serenity must first generate the great vows to liberate all sentient beings from samsara and to follow the Buddha's way to do this. Such a motivation makes the mind strong, courageous, and resilient. Remember this. Yeah, when you feel weak-minded, when you feel intimidated, when you feel depressed. Remember that bodhicitta makes you strong, courageous, and resilient. And it's true, it gives you something, because with bodhicitta you can't give up. You absolutely cannot. That is not an option, okay? Giving up is not an option. And so you find a way to deal with whatever craziness is going on in your mind, or whatever kind of discouragement of, oh, everybody else generated bodhicitta, but I can't. They've all realized emptiness, and I'm just sitting here, I haven't done anything my whole life. I've known the Dharma for years. I haven't achieved anything. My whole life is useless. Yeah, you know that? Yeah? Yeah, are you acquainted with that mind state? Yeah. All my teachers have been teaching for so long, I haven't learned anything. I've disappointed them. Oh. Okay. So bodhicitta is the antidote to this. Now you say, how about something like a leaf or ibuprofen? Yeah, I just want, bodhicitta's a little bit too difficult. Just, isn't there a pill I can take? Yeah, that would, what's that antidepressant? Starts with a P. Prozac, yeah. Can Prozac change it all? Yeah. Are all the bodhisattvas on Prozac? No, they aren't. Yeah. So, no, but it's true, Yeah, because, the whole thing of bodhisattva is so big and it's so vast. Yeah. And it's so impossible, but you want it anyway. And you have teachers that it seems like have it, and can show you the way. So, what are we going to get depressed about, Yeah, you just pick yourself up and sit on the cushion and say, I take refuge. Yeah, you do it. Yeah.
Why the King of Prayers is so powerful, because it just blows the mind open.
Yeah, totally, isn't it? When you look at our aspirations, my life's such a mess, I aspire that so-and-so would be nice to me. Yeah. I have my own King of Prayers, Yeah. Oh, I don't get along with this person. They always look at me cross-eyed. Will they be nice with me, please? May I, have good eye-hand coordination. So whenever somebody throws something, I can catch it instead of looking like a jerk on the field. Yeah, that's what our aspirations are like, aren't they? Oh, it's my day to cook. Yeah, I aspire. Yeah, no, to burn something. Yeah, I want to roast it. And it's better when it's burnt a little bit and gives you cancer. Yeah, yeah. People who are roasting stuff and it's burning, you're poisoning the rest of us. Yeah, you should aspire not to burn it. Okay. Yeah. But this is what our aspirations are like. Yeah. Yeah. Can I make chocolate chip cookies with lemon?
For breakfast.
What?
For breakfast.
For breakfast, yes. Chocolate chip cookies with lemon and chili. They made special chili powder today. I want to try it. Yeah. So I aspire, Yeah. Yeah. So when you practice bodhicitta, the whole quality of your aspiration changes. Okay. Like she said, read the King of Prayers, But then you're going to come back and say, but I aspired to look at this, and on every atom there's a Buddha surrounded by countless Buddhas who are surrounded by bodhisattvas. In this? And I'm aspiring to see that? Cuckoo. Well, yeah, keep aspiring. Someday, over the rainbow. Okay. So such a motivation makes the mind strong, courageous, and resilient. Serenity is also cultivated within the recollection that all phenomena exist in dependence on the mind. As the Sutra on the 10 Grounds says, and that sutra is part of the Avatamsaka Sutra, and the King of Prayers is at the very end of the Avatamsaka. Okay, so the Avatamsaka is actually a collection of a bunch of different sutras. Yeah. Throughout the 3 realms, there is nothing else at all. It is all created solely from the mind. And it's really true. Yeah, our mind is the originator of our happiness and our suffering, that very first meditation we do. Okay. This is now His Holiness is going to interpret that. Yeah. By understanding that the mind is empty of inherently existing nature, we will understand that all phenomena are not objectively real. What are you talking about? This is a gong. Yeah, it's out there, isn't it? I'm not hallucinating a gong. I can bang my head on it and it hurts. Yeah. What do you mean it's not objectively real? I can touch it. Yeah, if I can touch it, it's real. Yeah, isn't it? Okay, by understanding that the mind is empty of inherently existent nature, we will understand that all phenomena are not objectively real. By ceasing ignorance, afflictions cease, karmic formations cease, and samsaric dukkha ends. Okay, why are things not objectively real? Because they depend on other factors. Yeah, what he just talked about here is the beginning of the wheel of life, and talking about how if you cease the first link, the second the link ceases, and so on. Okay, so somebody once asked His Holiness, if Buddhism had one kind of slogan, what would it be? A one-word slogan or one-phrase slogan. His Holiness said, dependent arising. Yeah. Now, when I first heard him say this, many years ago, I was fairly new, and I thought, why didn't he say emptiness? Yeah. If there was one chief important thing in Buddhism to understand, wouldn't it be emptiness? Why didn't he say that? Yeah. And then he talks so much about bodhicitta. Why didn't he say bodhicitta? That these two, because he's always emphasizing those. Why did he say dependent arising? So I'm going to leave you with that to think about. Okay? Yeah, think about it. He said that for a reason, and it's really true. The little bit that I understand. Okay. The body, breath, and mind are interrelated and therefore are discussed together. The body is the coarsest, the breath is a little less coarse, and the mind is the least coarse. Adjusting and balancing the body makes the breath subtler, which in turn makes the mind subtle. Such a subtle, fine mind is conducive for cultivating serenity. The influence goes the other way as well. When the mind is subtle, the breathing pattern changes and becomes more refined, and in turn, the body is more relaxed. You can see this in your own experience. Yeah. If your mind's out of whack, just a lot of stuff going on in your mind, yeah, if you start with the body and, kind of have your body in a relaxed position, and then look at the way you're breathing. When your mind's in turmoil, your breath, very often, it's from up here, and it's quick, and it's kind of choppy, and it's not very consistent, and when you're really upset, your breath hardly nourishes your body, yeah, because you're choking and crying and coughing and everything else, yeah. So when you're really upset, start and the body, just sit it down, not running around, okay? And then look at your breath and just, without forcing it, just slowly, gently, slow your breath down a little bit. Don't go from to no, slowly, just, start to do that, okay? And as the breath becomes calmer, your mind will also become calmer, yeah? And then it becomes easier to meditate. It becomes your mind, when your mind is calmer, you're more relaxed. So it goes the other way. When you have a calm mind, then your breath is also relaxed, and then your body is also relaxed. So it's interesting sometimes, just check in with your body from time to time during the day. And are the times where your muscles are just clenched, or they're tight. And maybe something that you're not aware of, there's nothing concrete sticking up in your mind, but, something's tight. Yeah, you lie down in bed to go to sleep, yeah, and you're not falling asleep, but if you check with your body, oh, something's tight in my body. I'm holding something tight. And then, yeah, try to relax that. Mm-hmm. There's a breathing exercise that he describes here, which interestingly is the same one my physical therapist taught me at the first session. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll get to that. So the influence goes the other way as well. When the mind is subtle, the breathing pattern changes and becomes more refined, and in turn, the body is more relaxed. Yeah. Having mindfulness and introspective awareness of our body, breath, and mind during the break times is crucial. If our physical actions are rough, impulsive and reckless. Our breath will be coarse, and because of this, our thoughts will be scattered and unclear. When we later sit down to meditate, our body will be agitated and uncomfortable, making the mind correspondingly restless and unsettled. You ever experienced this? It's true, isn't it? Yep. During the break time, we should therefore reflect on what is important to do and how to do it, and then go about it in a relaxed yet focused manner. Yeah, so when we're agitated, the body's agitated, the mind's agitated, it's like, we've got to plan this, and I've got to get an answer from so-and-so about how they want it done right away, and we've got to make it all up and establish it step by step, and we're going to have a meeting about it and write it all down. Yeah, and then we're going to rehearse it again and again and again and again until we get it right. Yeah, but I've got to have that all planned out by tonight, because everybody is depending on me, and I don't know what to do. And yeah, great state of mind, isn't it? Yeah, you're going to get anything organized with that state of mind? Yeah. So first, yeah, you gotta, come back and quiet the mind a little bit. And he said here, therefore reflect on what is important to do. Okay? Most important to do is not harm anybody. Second most important to do is to benefit others. Okay. Then, with this task, with that kind of motivation, with this task, then I'll kind of approach it. Okay. So that's what's important to do. How to do it. I've got to plan how they welcome the teacher. Did your eyeballs just roll all by themselves?
I lost control.
Yeah, well, we've got to plan this all out. So who's going to do each row and each position? And who holds the flowers? And who holds, what else do they hold? Incense, and maybe a candle, and some food. Do we put food in there too or not? No, but I saw it once with food, and food's a nice thing. Can't we just add the food? Come on, let's be creative, Why are you always blocking me? Okay. Reflect on what is important and how to do it, and then go about it in a refined yet focused manner. Yes, there's 25 points, and you got to remember them all. We're going to rehearse it today, now, strictly according to these 25. And of course, you start doing the 25, and then you run into what she experienced when you were trying to get us to do it, and it's like, number 7 doesn't follow number 6 very well. We've got to revise this, and what are we going to stick where, and we'll stick where? But we can't revise it because so-and-so said you go and do it in this order. But no, you don't have to do it in that order, It's like I've seen it done in other ways. No, but, we're following this teacher's instructions. Yeah, so the flowers have to be pink. Yeah, and yellow, yeah, and it's got to be, like that. And so, you have to have the tall people front and short people in the back. Yes, right? Yeah, and you've all got to know how to hold your hands properly. None of this business. Yeah, you cannot put your palms together like this. Yeah, but so-and-so does. She's one of our teachers. Shut up. So I just copy what my teacher does, I'm putting my hands together. No, like this. No, I can't do it like that. My tradition like this. Yeah. Then you bow, Then you have to bow. And you do right hand, left hand, put them over like this, turn them over. But you have to unfold them like lotus petals when you're doing that. You don't just put your hands down and go like this. You have to unfold them, yes, very nicely. Yeah. And when you prostrate, your tush should not be up in the air. Get that tush down. Yeah. It should not be up in the air. Yeah. Otherwise, somebody's going to come by and whack. Yeah. Okay, so let's practice bowing now. Yeah. And, and if you happen to be one of the teachers, you're wearing this big, long mala. Yeah. So when you bow, you cannot just bow and your mala clanks when it hits the ground. You cannot do that. You have to learn to bow, to put this hand down, and then when you're going down with this one, to gently hold your mala until you get to the cushion, and then put it down and do like that. And then when you come back up again, then let's see, you do this hand first and start to rise and grab your mala. And then this hand and push yourself up. Hold that mala. Otherwise, it's going to swing around the back of your neck, and everybody's going to stare at you. Yeah, let's now rehearse that. Okay, come on. Ding. Yeah, down. Yeah, then you get the first ding, the first prostration. You get another softer ding to, and then you get another ding to come up. Yeah, but second prostration, you only get the dings to go down and go up. Yeah. And third prostration, then you get another little tiny thing to indicate it's the third one, in case you fell asleep between the first one and the third one. Okay, so let's go. Come on, everybody. Yeah. So, Yeah. Therefore, reflect on what is important to do and how to do it, and then go about it in a relaxed yet focused manner. But Venerable Wu Yin's coming, and we don't know what to do, and am I supposed to stand behind her? No, I'm supposed to stand up by the gong, and I'm supposed to ring the gong for her to bow. But how can I ring the gong which is up there if I'm supposed to stand behind her? No, you stand behind her at the beginning, and we're going to have a chair for you to sit in. Yeah, why am I sitting in the back of the thing when I've got to be up there? Okay. Well, that's why we have so many rehearsals. And why we discuss it again and again and again and again, ad infinitum, right? Yeah. Please don't do that. Yeah. So begin a meditation session by settling the body into a comfortable and stable position. I have a straight back, head level, shoulders level. Okay. Settle the body into a comfortable and stable position. Comfortable? No. Stable? Yes. If possible, sit in the Vajra position with the left foot on the right thigh and the right foot on the left thigh. I thought you put the right foot on the left thigh first, and then the left thigh on the right, the left thigh and the right foot. You do something. Yeah. Never been able to get clear which one goes where. Okay, loosen your belt. Oh no! Oh no, I can't do that. Yeah. And put your left hand on top of your right. In your lap against your body. Like this. And my thumbs have got to touch. Come on, you can reach. You can reach. Okay. I'm ready. Okay. A comfortable, stable posture. If possible, sit in the Vajra position with the left foot on the right thigh and the right foot on the left thigh. Loosen your belt and put your left hand on top of the right in your lap against your body. Uh-oh, there's a footnote. What does it say? It says, this is opposite in the Tibetan tradition. Okay? Put your left hand on top of your right. In Tibet, we put the right hand on top of the left. Yeah? I don't know why. There's the Tibetans say you do this because it facilitates the flow of the winds. Now, why putting this one on top? Because many statues of the Buddha, the left hand is on top of the right. The Chinese statues, it's like that. Yeah? So I don't know why. Now balance the breath by expelling the stale breath. Gently exhale it through the mouth while imagining that any blockages in the flow of the body's eternal energy are released. Okay, then close the mouth and gently inhale fresh air through the nose. Do this a few times. Then sit with the mouth closed and breathe through the nose. Sitting very still while meditating is important. Okay, so this is what the physical therapist was telling me to do. And it's nice. You can do it lying down too. This is. She had me lie down, and my knees were, my legs were bent. Yeah, and then to just exactly what he says here. Just blow the stale out through your mouth, slowly. And until you can really, get all the air out, and then very slowly inhale again. Yeah, so that your breathing is slow, doing that. So it's very nice. It's quite relaxing as soon as you learn to relax and stop asking yourself if you're doing it right. Yeah, but it's very good. It's good to do before you go to sleep too. And and when you're, here. It's taught us, the beginning thing you do in your meditation session. But I think also when, you're upset, you're angry, your mind's in turmoil. And that's quite good to do. And let me read it again. Now balance the breath by expelling the stale breath. Gently exhale it through the mouth, really a long exhale so you get all the old breath out. while imagining that any blockages in the flow of the body's internal energy are released. Then close your mouth and gently inhale fresh air through the nose. Not big, not noisy, deep breathing, but gentle. Okay, begin meditation by adjusting the breath and helping it to become subtle if it is windy, uneven, or ordinary. So now he's going to describe those three states. Windy breathing is when inhaling and exhaling produce a sound. Yeah, some people breathe pretty loud. Yeah, so that's windy breathing. So this makes, and also when your mind is in turmoil, sometimes your breath is quite loud. Okay, this makes the mind scattered and unfocused. So that's windy breathing. Uneven breathing may occur even when breathing is noiseless. Here the breath catches and does not flow smoothly. Yeah. So when you're exhaling or inhaling, there's some small catch in there. It's not just, an even exhale or an even inhale. As a result of the uneven breathing, the mind becomes stuck and blocked. And then the third one, ordinary breathing, occurs when the breath is still coarse, even though there is no sound and it does not catch. Breathing this way makes the mind tired. Yeah, that's ordinary breathing. And we get exhausted, don't we? Yeah. To subdue these three imbalanced ways of breathing, adjust the breath by focusing the mind at the navel. This has a stabilizing effect. Yeah, if you're getting lungy or your mind is just scattered and dissatisfied, bring your attention down to your navel, to the chakra there, and just keep it there. And, don't do so much meditation or visualization at the heart, because that can really stir up the wind. So when that happens, just bring it down, keep it here, and it really helps your mind calm down. Okay, so focus the mind at the navel. This has a stabilizing effect. Check that the body is relaxed and tension-free. Also imagine the breath penetrating all the pores freely and without obstruction. Like your body is, made of light, and the breath can go in and out. The breathing, in this way, the breath becomes subtler and more refined. The breathing process is slower, smoother, and more relaxed. Breathing in this way automatically makes the mind more stable, peaceful, and content. When the breath and the mind are more subtle and refined, it is easier to enter meditative absorption. In addition, disorders such as stress and imbalances of the winds and qi do not occur, so you don't get lung. Okay, we will stop here for tonight. So try this in the upcoming days. And then you can have a meeting and compare notes and see who can exhale the longest, who can inhale the longest, who knows why you're doing it and what the method is, and Yes.
I'm wondering who did you get the Chinese material from? How did that come?
Oh, from Venerable Dhammamitra's translations of Xi's text. Yeah, that's where I got this from. Some of the material that comes later from Venerable Jianhu and our discussions, and some from just talking to various people. Yeah, no, I didn't make it up. I may have misunderstood some things because some of the terminology, trying to get definitions for some of the terminology sometimes is a bit difficult. But, yeah. Okay, other questions? Anything? No? Okay, then we'll dedicate. Where are we? What page is it? 293. 293, okay. I aspire to have a chugu that stays on my shoulder.
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Losam's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Due to this merit may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West, flourish. Sunday morning, I'm giving a talk